Hello, everyone, and many thanks for joining this stream. Today is the 14th of July. Now it's 11 o'clock in the morning, Moscow time, and I have prepared quite a number of news on some major developments, and hopefully you will find it informative and useful. I hope there is no technical issues with sound or video. And dear friends, before I start news segment, let me check just to make sure that everything is kind of working. Okay. Okay, I can read their comments. Sound is okay. So, yes, let's start, dear friends. And first of all, let me thank our community. Thank you all, and especially members of community that supported me, my work yesterday during the fundraising stream. We were unable to reach a goal, which was to fundraise $200, so that all this week I will work a little less stressed. But nevertheless, I think stream was successful. We were almost there. So many thanks to everybody who supported and who continues to support, dear friends. Truly grateful for keeping me in this business of news and political commentary. That's being said, let's go through some news now. And well, it might be that today will go down in history as a historical Monday because everybody is kind of waiting for statements that U.S. President Donald Trump will make today. There was an announcement a few days ago that on Monday, that is today, Trump will make some statements in regards to Russia. Everyone expects some threats to be issued from Washington. Yet again, everyone expects that Trump will talk about additional financial assistance to the regime, additional military aid or assistance to Western proxy Kiev regime. And well, most likely that's exactly what is going to happen because we have, for example, this report on TASS news agency and all the other Russian media outlets did pay attention to this news that was originated from Axios, Western media outlet, that Trump might announce a plan to supply Kiev with weapons today, including offensive weapons. And when it comes to these offensive weapons, rumors are that in Trump's announcement, we might hear about future transfers of the to Kiev regime, not just potentially artillery systems, infantry fighting vehicles, armored personnel carriers, and so on, but also long-range missiles, ATACMS missiles, possibly, and also JASSM cruise missiles, long-range cruise missiles that can reach modified versions, can strike up to 1,000 kilometers away, by the way, which is, if this will become true, this missile is going to be longest range weapons that formerly Kiev regime will have, although we all understand that all these long-range strikes deep into Russian territory are orchestrated, organized by NATO member states. In case of ATACMS, it was US military personnel and intelligence. In case of British Storm Shadow missiles, cruise missiles, it was British military personnel and intelligence. In case of French missiles, French Scalp PG missiles, it was French military personnel. And yes, we just have to wait. There is too much speculation on air right now. And let's wait a couple of hours and we'll probably find out. But most likely, Trump's statements today will be perceived by many as a sort of declaration of a war on Russia. He will go crazy, I guess, in his statements. And well, question is, how will Russia respond? But before I go into that topic, let me give you this video, dear friends, of one of the potential weapons that US might deliver. This is, you can see right now on your screen, JASSM cruise missile that in modified versions have a range of up to 1,000 kilometers, and Moscow will be well in reach of this missile. If ATACMS have like 300-kilometer range, then this one's gonna be much more capable one in this regard. And well, yet again, question is how will Moscow react, especially if we take in account that Trump made preliminary statements, let's say, in advance to whatever he is going to declare today. And in his statements, he was extremely disrespectful towards Russian president. Let me give you short clips of Trump's statements on the matter.
On Russia tomorrow? We're going to see what we will see tomorrow, okay? We have the Secretary General. As you know, Europe has announced sanctions. But I am very disappointed with President Putin. And I thought he was somebody that meant what he said, and he'll talk so beautifully, and then he'll bomb people at night. We don't like that. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Well, I'm going to have a meeting with the Secretary General who's coming in tomorrow. But we basically are going to send them various pieces of very sophisticated military, and they're going to pay us 100% for them. And that's the way we want it. And we've been trying to get that again. I don't think Biden ever asked for it. We're in for about 350 billion. Europe is in for 100 billion. That's a lot of money, 100, but they should be in actually for more than us. So as we send equipment, they're going to reimburse us for that equipment. Doesn't that sound good? That's the way it should have been a long time ago.
So as you can see, dear friends, Trump is not shying away to escalate. He's talking about Russian president in very disrespectful manner, and it's kind of ironic, isn't it, when Trump, person that just a few days ago disregard his own statements in terms of Epstein files, now he's talking about some other people. I mean, how out of touch with reality this personality really is. I mean, it's a shameful, right? But in his statements, you can see that he's talking about some advanced weaponry, and that's why probably rumors began that U.S. might supply Kyiv regime, formerly Kyiv regime. In reality, it's going to be U.S. militaries, right, that will use it. So these JASSM missiles and also ATACMS, possibly modified variations that have a longer range than 300 kilometers. He also announced that European countries, European NATO member states will basically pay for whatever weapons US will transfer formally to Kyiv regime. And well, now the question, what should we all expect? By the way, big question, of course. Well, one might speculate, of course, but we just don't know. We just don't really know. My guess is that, I mean, many members of our community already are asking that how Russia will react if Trump together, or US together with Germany, will begin deploying against Russia long-range missile systems that can reach Moscow and way beyond Moscow. And well, my reading of the big picture is that, as I was predicting, by the way, since forever, I guess, we should expect an extreme level of escalation. It was just too obvious to me that Western ruling class, globalists, and their controlled regimes in the West were not ready to acknowledge that they lost this proxy war. So therefore, they will continue escalation, and that's exactly what is happening. So I think Russia should be ready for very, very significant increase in terrorist attacks on Russia, very significant increase in the long-range missile and drone attacks on Russia, and all sorts of provocations, right? That's inevitable. That will definitely happen, right? How Moscow will react, that's a different topic. If these provocations that US, UK, France, Germany, and others from the NATO will come up with if these provocations would not be tremendously deadly. And by saying so, I mean if as a result of attacks, NATO attacks on Russia, on daily basis, hundreds or potentially thousands of civilians will die, or even militaries, by the way. In that case, Moscow probably will have no option but to reconsider its calculus in terms of response to the NATO. But if fatality, level of fatality as a result of this extreme escalation from the NATO would not be higher than it is right now, and unfortunately civilians are dying literally on daily basis, by the way, on Russian territory as a result of terrorist activity of NATO and their proxy Kiev regime, but then probably Moscow would not react in any way, shape or form. Probably not even statements will be made about this escalation. I don't know. I just don't know, man. It is anybody's guess at this point how Moscow will respond in escalation, because at this point, I guess no one really understands why Russian leadership still continues to exercise restraint. I really don't think anybody in this world, with the exception of maybe Russian president himself and few people around him, really understands what this policy of restraint is based on and what we want to achieve with this constant restraint, when Western world clearly sees it as a weakness of Russia. They don't see it as a Russian attempt to avoid large-scale escalation. They see it as a weakness, and they continue to escalate. And we are now at a point when there is a open discussion, at least on a public level, and in few hours, Trump will most likely begin talking about it too, about these long-range weapon systems that U.S. will provide Kyiv regime to strike deep into Russian territory, including on Moscow. And dear friends, you remember what I was saying, that West is planning to transfer Kyiv regime into a nuclear-armed regime? I think after this long-range missile topic, next stage is going to be exactly that, transformation of Kyiv regime into a nuclear-armed regime, because yet again, Western ruling class have no reverse gear, right? They don't know what diplomacy is. They don't know how to de-escalate. For 500 years, practically, these generational criminal clans that are in charge of collective West, royal families, aristocracies, and so on, they did not knew what no is, right? They were basically terrorizing almost the entire planet. And generations among them have been reasoned with that attitude that no one can stand against them, right? And that's why they don't know what diplomacy is. They lost understanding of it. And that's why they don't understand any other language but force. So let's see, by the way, let's see how Moscow will react on the inevitable escalation. But meanwhile, let's continue with the news, by the way, that I have prepared for you for this update. Trump's ally, extreme Russia hater, Lindsey Graham, senator, unveiled some of the points that Trump might talk about during today's statements. Let's go through this news. Sanctions bill currently in the Senate would give U.S. president, and obviously Lindsey Graham is talking about the sanctions, anti-Russian sanctions bills that includes 500% tariffs on every country that is cooperating with Russia, especially in the energy sector, right? So sanctions bill currently in the Senate would give U.S. President Donald Trump a sledgehammer to use against Russia and its trading partners. Hawkish Senator Lindsey Graham has stated Trump previously said he may impose additional sanctions if Russia-Ukraine negotiations fail to produce a ceasefire. He also accused Russian President Vladimir Putin of stalling their talks. In an interview with the CBS News aired on Sunday, Graham, who co-authored the bill with Democrat Richard Blumenthal, also another Russia hater, by the way, and human hater, basically, a Zionist scumbag, said Trump has left the door open regarding Russia. Despite talking a hard line on the other nations, the door is about to close, he warned. Dick and I have got 85 co-sponsors in the United States Senate for congressional sanctions, with the sledgehammer available to President Trump to go after Putin's economy and all those countries who pop up the Putin's war machine. Graham said the legislation would authorize Trump to impose up to 500% tariffs on nations that continue trading with Russia. Graham signaled out China, India, and Brazil. He stressed that Trump would have maximum flexibility in enforcing the measures. And yet again, dear friends, I think Trump's today's statements that going to be based on threats, by the way, against Russia, will be seen by many as declaration of war, unofficial declaration of the war, most likely. And I really hope Russian leadership will stop exercising this freaking restraint policy and begin striking back on all NATO members that are directly engaged in this war against Russia, in this proxy war against Russia, right? Because yet again, this is only language that they understand, man. Until we are exercising restraint, they're going to escalate, and more people are dying meanwhile, right? With every escalation or steps that West is taking, more people are dying and more destruction is happening, right? So we have to stop these psychopaths, man. We just have to. We don't really have option. Let's see, dear friends, when Trump will make statements, I will probably, if enough information will be available, I will probably make a second live stream today, and I will share information from US and also potentially commentaries that here in Russia will be made on Trump's statements. RIA Novosti, meanwhile, is reporting that some loud statements being made in US in regards to Russian assets. Also, US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent insists on radical measures on frozen Russian assets. Senator Lindsey Graham said in a conversation with the CBS News. And well, rumors are circulating, by the way, that Trump may go ahead with steps that even Biden's administration was refusing to do, which is stealing frozen Russian assets. In US jurisdiction, there is $100+ billion of Russian investments. And rumors are that Trump's administration may start officially stealing this money, $5 billion on the first stage, and then whatever they can steal, right? So very much possible from US political elites. No one should expect any adequacy, by the way. These are scum of humanity, right? Literally scum of humanity that being chosen by true decision makers, right? And then put in a position of decision-making process so that they will sign up on the papers that these really influential forces in US will order them to do, right? Whoever is pulling the strings there. So no one should expect any adequate steps from current political class, either in US or in Europe, by the way, for that matter. Most likely they are going to steal Russian frozen assets. Probably they already did even. RIA Novosti, meanwhile, is also reporting that Macron, French president, names a number of countries participating in the coalition of their willing. So the number of countries participating in this so-called coalition of willing to help Ukraine has reached 30, French President Emmanuel Macron stated. And recently, dear friends, while French president was in UK, he made statement that Paris and London reach agreement to increase expeditionary corpus or whatever they have from 10,000 to 50,000 rapid deployment forces or something, from 10,000 to 50,000. and they probably will push whatever pressure, or they will use whatever leverage they have over the other NATO member states to basically add some more troops to this expeditionary corpus. Yet again, 50,000 plus troops from Europe, by the way, will last on the battlefield right now, maybe for a month. That's about it, right? So in practical terms, we just don't give a damn, right? They can send entire day armies, we will just obliterate them. No doubts about that. Unfortunately, it will take casualties from our side also, but we will take care of them, right? No one has any doubts about it. But yet again, only question I have personally is that, how long Russian army going to fight enemies with both hands being tied behind their backs, man? That's just, in my personal understanding, irrational, right? Russia has enough very capable weapon systems that can actually obliterate enemies even before they will reach a line of contact, right? Way before they will reach line of contact. And that will save Russian citizens, right? That will save Russian civilians, that will save Russian troops. So why we are waiting, or what we are waiting for? I don't know, man. I really don't understand. This frustration is settling in more and more people, I guess, worldwide, and here in Russia too, among pro-Russian people, by the way, I'm talking about, because when you can actually obliterate your enemy in matter of hours, and you are not doing it, and as a result there is so much destruction and so much casualties, man. I mean, questions being raised, right? Only explanation one may come up with is that, well, if Russia will begin deploying some extreme force, in that case, the situation might quickly deteriorate towards the nuclear war between, let's say, NATO and Russia. Yes, maybe, by the way. So whatever has to happen will happen, right? So what we are caring, why should we care about this stuff? If World War III is going to happen, then let's strike first, man. If it's inevitable, it's inevitable, right? I don't know, man. Whatever have to happen will happen, man. No matter how hard you try to avoid it. That's how it was always. That's how it will be always, right? And this is not just a fatalist point of view, by the way. This is scientifically correct view. Everything that had happened and will happen already actually had happened based on latest knowledge in physics, by the way. Ask strong theorists, right? Experts in string theory, and they will confirm that. Nevertheless, Macron also went to say that French military budget will double for 2027 compared to 2017, and will reach 64 billion euros. Okay, this is just France. If you add all NATO member states, by the way, combined, they are probably spending on military about $2 trillion, maybe even more, and they are still whining, by the way. Military industrial complex is still not happy with such a influx of money, and they are ordering their puppets or their bitches that they put in a position of decision making all over their collective West to allocate more funds, right? 2 trillion is not enough for them. They want more. They want all money that there is in the West. And the process is underway, right? All NATO member states increasing spending on military, enriching military industrial complex and themselves, right? Because they work for them, while cutting spending on all the programs that are assisting ordinary citizens. That's the modern collective West, by the way. And obviously, no one is surprised, I guess, that Zelensky and his criminal associates are very much emboldened with their latest developments. Finally, US is back on its tracks to lead this proxy war against Russia. And, Zelensky is making quite tough statements that they're going to conduct long-range strikes deep into Russian territory. So Ukrainian leader Vladimir Zelensky has threatened the new strikes deep inside the Russia days after US pledged to resume military aid to Kiev. Yet again, RT sometimes writes some crap, by the way, that I don't really understand vote for, or why, or who is the editor-in-chief here, by the way. When US halted military aid, when RT staff checked it, right, that US actually halted military aid, and now they resume it. What the hell, man? When you are talking about some alleged processes, at least write that allegedly, when US stopped it. Come on, man. I don't know. RT is such a freaking disappointment, right? So Zelensky made the remarks after meeting with the defense minister Rustem Umerov, commander-in-chief of the armed forces Alexander Syrsky, and chief of the general staff Andrei Knatov on Sunday. Our units will continue to destroy their occupiers. I mean, these bitches are talking about, they are occupiers, by the way. They are occupiers on historical Russian territory and should be neutralized. That's all. They are on historical Russian territory and should be neutralized. All these freaking Nazis and the fascists, by the way. If they want to occupy some land, I mean, they have Western Ukraine that also don't belongs to them, belongs to Poland, Hungary, Romania, right? And if they want to let them occupy those territories, but Russian territory will be freed from these bastards, man, 100%. But nevertheless, Zelensky is threatening to strike deep into Russian territory, and as I said, they are emboldened. By the way, they are emboldened. Of course, they know that they're going to receive larger, not them directly, but US going to send its military intelligence assets and also long-range weapon systems that will be then used to strike deep into Russian territory. Kiev will take responsibility for these long-range strikes, and that's why Zelensky is talking this tough, or acting this tough, together with his criminal associates. Okay, we will see how all this story will end, and it's not going to end well for either collective West or for their proxies in Ukraine. I'm quite sure about it. No matter how long it will take, we will decimate these motherfuckers, man. We will exterminate them all, man. That's what is going to happen, right? Even if we will die in the process, but we will take them out, all of them, man. That is going to happen for sure. Yet again, unfortunately, there is a high risk that due to terrorist nature of the US regime, due to terrorist nature of the regimes in other NATO member states, we will observe now a tremendous increase in terrorist attacks on Russian Federation, and also tremendous increase in long-range strikes on Russian territory. And at some point, Russian president, who is, time and again demonstrates that he's yes, top politician, heavyweight, and he wants to deal with situation with as much as possible with political means. But nevertheless, at some point, he will probably have to say that against Russia are elements that don't really understand language, human language, right? So only language they understand is force. So we will have to take some measures, and we will. I really hope Putin will stop exercising this restraint, man. It's just really too much. And RT is also reporting that, Istanbul talks format is exhausted, according to Kiev regime. The format of direct peace negotiations between Moscow and Kiev in Istanbul has practically exhausted itself due to Russia's maximalist demands. Ukrainian First Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Kuslitsa has claimed, and by the way, rumors are that head of Ukrainian delegation during this Istanbul talks, Umerov, who is a current defense ministry, is going to be released from his position in upcoming days, and he will most likely leave the position of head of delegation too in Istanbul. And clearly, by the way, Western enemies of Russia are on high spirit. They think they are about to begin final assault on Russia, and they don't need this freaking show, by the way, that they come up with when it comes to Istanbul talks. Or why Russia spend any time talking to them, I have no freaking idea. But at least some progress was made in terms of humanitarian direction, right? At least POWs were released, and that's a good thing. So it was not completely useless, because exactly this humanitarian component of their outcome. But nevertheless, in terms of true de-escalation and attempts to bring closer final resolution of the conflict, these talks in Istanbul were not that effective, let's say diplomatically that way, right? So Kiev now is basically announcing cancellation of Istanbul talks, because yet again they are on high spirit. They think not just Kiev regime, but take a look at the statements, by the way, that you hear from Washington, from Berlin, from Paris, from London. They are all on high spirit, by the way. They have impression, they are living impression that, they are about to, I don't know, achieve a victory, and well, they're gonna learn hard way. They're gonna learn hard way how wrong they are, by the way. Excuse me. They're gonna learn hard way that they are very much mistaken. And well, on the topic of this creation of the Bolsheviks, Ukraine, Trump's special envoy Kat Kellogg arrived in Ukraine this morning, and rumors are that he's gonna stay in Kiev for a week. Okay, probably Kellogg will coordinate terrorist activity with local assets of the West, all the terrorist activity that Washington, London, Paris, Berlin, and others will prepare. Right. That's the only reason why Kellogg will stay in Kiev for a week, just to coordinate their actions. Right, because yet again, all the attacks on Russia, obviously, responsibility for all the attacks on Russia that will be committed by NATO member states, responsibility will be taken by Kiev regime. Right, they're gonna claim all the terrorist activity of NATO, right? So that's when it comes to all these developments. Let's wait; it's a couple of hours, right? And we will see what this Epstein client Trump gonna say, right? It's such a shame, by the way, that some freaking pedophiles are in position of presidents in US, man. Such a freaking shame. I mean, US citizens should be ashamed, by the way, for their political class that they have, right? Nevertheless, let's continue with some more news. TASS news agency is reporting that Ukrainian terrorists attacked a unique training center of Zaporozhye nuclear power plant with 3 drones. No surprises, by the way, after what Israel and US did in terms of nuclear facilities in Iran. Of course, their proxies in Kiev are emboldened, and they're going to intensify attacks on Russian nuclear facilities. No doubts about that. At this point, no reports about casualties or more or less significant damage as a result of these drone attacks, but unfortunately, risk that terrorist attacks on Russian nuclear facilities will increase dramatically is extremely high, right? Also, TASS news agency is reporting that Russian armed forces liberated the settlements of Karl Marx and Nikolaevka, and also reports are that Russian armed forces liberated settlement of Grushevka in the west of the DPR. TASS news agency is reporting that, according to Andrei Marochko, military expert, Kiev's losses in battles on their LPR borders amounted to almost 3.9 thousand military personnel, and this is just on the borders with their LPR, by the way. Republic itself is practically completely liberated from enemy forces. Kiev regime is not controlling even a single settlement in LPR, but in some forestories, borderline forestories, there still are some DRGs and some forces of the Kiev regime that are operating, and Russian troops actively denazifying them, sending to other worlders. Vzгляд newspaper is reporting that Moldavian servicemen were killed in Ukraine after Russian airstrike. So 4 soldiers and officers of the Moldavian army were killed in the Kherson region as a result of an attack on the training ground where they were being trained. This was reported by media, by the way, although Moldavian officials rejected these claims, and they are saying that there were no Moldavian troops on Kiev-controlled territory. It's up to you which side to believe. Me personally, I have no doubts. I have no doubts that Moldavia's terrorist regime, that is led by Maya Sandu, CIA asset, by the way, is actively engaged in a cooperation with the Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky. So therefore, this does not come as a surprise to me that some Moldavian terrorists were undergoing training together with Ukrainian terrorists. So, okay, number of them were killed, good. Vzгляд newspaper is also reporting that SBU, Ukrainian terrorist organization, reported that they eliminated alleged killers of Colonel Voronich, colonel of the SBU, this terrorist organization. And you know what is interesting? In the killing, in execution, basically, of this Ukrainian terrorist Voronich, who was engaged in a terrorist activity on Russian territory and allegedly was involved in an assassination of Motorola field commander, famous field commander of Donbass resistance, also Givi, famous field commander of Donbass resistance, and a number of other individuals. So this person, this Ukrainian terrorist Voronich, was allegedly engaged in the assassinations of a number of people on Russian territory, and he was killed, by the way, executed basically for his crimes. Although Kiev regime is trying to blame on Russia that this dirty animal Voronich was assassinated, but there are also other versions that there was some internal confrontation, by the way, between SBU and the main intelligence directorate of the Kiev regime, and they're just killing each other, right? And every time they attack each other, they have a unique opportunity to blame for everything Russia, right? And why I think it is very much possible that this was an inside job or the conflict between main intelligence directorate that is led by Budanov and the SBU, because 2 Azerbaijani citizens were involved. 2 Azerbaijani citizens, by the way, were involved in this execution of Ukrainian terrorist Voronich, right? And those Azerbaijanis allegedly were killed by SBU, tracked and killed. And you know what is interesting? Did you hear anything from Baku that, well, Azerbaijani citizens or Azerbaijani nationals were killed in Ukraine? No. And those Azerbaijanis, by the way, allegedly, yet again, allegedly had connections with their Azerbaijani ethnic mafia, right? So did Baku made any statements? Did Baku escalated with Kiev that Azerbaijani nationals were killed, as Baku did with Moscow when during the investigation in connection with Azerbaijani mafia in Ekaterinburg, 2 suspects were died, and Baku used that situation as a reason to escalate with Moscow. So, well, 2 Azerbaijani nationals were killed in the Kiev region too, and did Baku said anything about it? Of course not. Of course not. You know why? Because Aliyev didn't receive orders from his bosses in Ankara or in London, so he's keeping quiet. Right? Okay, by the way, in any case, I don't give a damn, by the way, about this killed freaking Azerbaijanis or this killed Ukrainian terrorists, man. I just simply don't care, man. More criminals are dead, more terrorists are dead, better for humanity. This is my honest take on the matter, right? Anyways, let's continue with some more news. And RT is reporting that Moscow dismisses U.S. media's Putin-Iran nuclear claim. Okay, interesting. Moscow has dismissed the US media report claiming that Russian President Vladimir Putin urged Iran to accept a nuclear deal that would strip it of the right to enrich uranium, calling it a dirty ploy to stoke tensions in the region. In an interview on Sunday, the Russian Foreign Ministry slammed Western outlets as a tool in the hands of political establishment and the deep state, which is said does not hesitate to resort to any means, including provocative acts and fake news. Russian officials singled out US outlet Axios, which is described as a toilet tanker that consistently spreads targeted disinformation, mentioning in particular its recent article titled Scoop, Putin urges Iran to take a zero enrichment nuclear deal with the US, sources say. The Axios story, the ministry said, was apparently yet another dirty politicized campaign launched with the aim to escalating tensions around Iran's nuclear program. It also reiterated that Moscow's position remains that the crisis around the Iran nuclear program should be resolved exclusively by political and diplomatic means. On Friday, Axios reported, citing European and Israeli officials, that Putin told both US President Donald Trump and their officials in Tehran following 12-day Israel-Iran war that he would support a nuclear deal involving zero enrichment. And yet again, I don't know, obviously. I don't know what Putin said there to his US or Iranian counterparts, but I mean, why would Putin talk about enrichment? By the way, it's not Russia's concern, right? It's between Tehran and Washington, and how conversation should be formed so that at some point Putin will say, I mean, I do whatever you want, in zero enrichment or not, I don't care. I mean, I don't see this report being true, by the way, because why would Putin even talk about this subject? Why? Right? Why would Putin make life easier for a terrorist regime in Washington, man? It makes no sense, literally. So it is what it is, man. Share what you think about all this stuff, but I don't think Axios reported correctly on the matter. Excuse me. And also, dear friends, let me give you this news. Let me give you this report that is connected with the president of Iran, by the way, who actually spoke about in a quite strong form about White House. I'm talking about Abbas Araghchi, by the way, foreign minister of Israel. Let me read his statement. Netanyahu's pledged victory in Gaza almost 2 years ago. The end result, military quagmire facing arrest warrant for war crimes and 200,000 new Hamas recruits. In Iran, he dreamed that he could erase 40 plus years of peaceful nuclear achievements. The end result, every one of the dozen Iranian academics that his mercenaries martyred had trained 100 plus capable students. They will show Netanyahu what they are capable of, but his arrogance does not stop there. Having miserably failed to achieve any of his war aims in Iran and compelled to run to daddy when our powerful missiles flattened secret Israeli regime sites, which Netanyahu is still censoring. He is openly distancing what they're dictating. He's openly dictating what the US should or should not say or do in talks with Iran. Apart from the face, apart from the farce that Iran will accept anything wanted war criminal has to say, the inevitable question arises: what exactly is Netanyahu smoking? And if nothing, what exactly does the Mossad have on the White House? That's the interesting point, by the way. What exactly Mossad has on the White House that is on a Trump, by the way. And maybe what White House has, what Mossad has on a White House or on a Trump is that, well, Trump is on Epstein files. Trump is on Epstein files. That's it, man. That's it. And that's why Trump is actively engaged in this cover-up, right? One of the reasons. That's how it is, man. Meanwhile, dear friends, we also have, and we will come back to this topic, by the way, of Trump's cover-up of all that Epstein case. But meanwhile, this report from TASS News Agency, which is based on Iranian media, that Iranian president was wounded in Israeli strike on Tehran on June 16th. So this terrorist regime of Netanyahu, by the way, this genocidal, psychopathic regime, did actually try to kill not just the scientific elite of Iran, not just military elite of Iran, but also political elite of Iran, political leadership, and in large, Netanyahu's genocidal regime failed, by the way. In large. Unfortunately, they did manage to kill many scientists. They managed to kill some military leaders, but majority survived. And among them, current president of Iran, Pezeshkian, also foreign minister of Iran, Abbas Araghchi. And reports are that Israel was even trying to kill our supreme leader of Iran, and also failed. Right, so that's the face of Israel, by the way. Israeli regime right now. It's a Nazi fascist state led by fascists and the Nazis, and should be demilitarized and denazified, 1,000,000%. By the way, there can be no doubts about it. Israel as a fascist state, and I don't give a fuck how much YouTube's algorithm don't likes the truth, but Israel as a fascist state led by fascists has to be demilitarized and denazified, period. Continue, dear friends. TASS News Agency is reporting that Musk calls for Epstein case documents to be declassified. So Elon Musk called on US President Donald Trump to publish materials on the case of financier Jeffrey Epstein. We have quote here. Trump, said Epstein several times during the call for everyone to stop talking about Epstein. Just publish the materials as promised. He wrote on his page on Twitter X, and he has a point, isn't it? He has a point. Just publish the dossier or whatever it is. Publish those documents. Why not? Where is the justice? I mean, US so-called elites, by the way, so love to talk about justice to be served and this and that and democracy, pluralism, fight against the crime and so on. Publish the freaking dossier, yo. Just do it. If Trump is not a freaking pedophile, and he is, I believe, then why not publish the documents? Why this scum of humanity, Donald Trump, is not publishing documents? Why he is engaged in this cover-up operation? This fucking pedophile that should be put in jail for life, at least, by the way. Although, if you ask me, pedophiles should be executed. That's it, man. That should be penalty, death penalty for all pedophiles, by the way, forever. That's how they should be treated. But Trump himself, this freaking dirty animal, denies any cover-up in Jeffrey Epstein's case. So US President Donald Trump has pushed back against the claims of a cover-up in Jeffrey Epstein's case, defending his administration's handling of the release of files related to disgraced financier and convicted sex offender death in a jail. He's talking about Epstein, who was killed, obviously. If he was even killed, by the way, maybe all that story is a freaking cover-up, and he was not even killed, but he stays somewhere, keeps quiet. I don't know, man. This all this story is a crazy stuff, right? But he clearly was a Mossad asset, right? And whenever you hear Mossad, if you dig in, you will see CIA too, because they work together, right? And it is a question which controls which. I think CIA is under control of Mossad, right? CIA never served the interests of US people, that's for sure. And question is why? Why? Right? And by the way, no matter how hard Trump and other criminals in US leadership gonna try to kill this topic of Epstein and Epstein dossier or Epstein files, well, people are not buying it, by the way. People are not buying it. When Trump posted on his Truth Social yet another call to forget about her Epstein story, well, people rebel against him on his own platform, by the way. And probably you have seen dozens and dozens and dozens of comments of his freaking supporters, by the way, that are basically outraged with behavior of Trump and his inner circle. And the only explanation, by the way, only logical explanation is that Trump is on that list. That's it, man. And this story, by the way, will probably bring down Trump. If Trump is a pedophile, he should resign immediately and he should be put in jail. That's it. And more people worldwide do believe that he is on that Epstein list. And everybody who is on that list, by the way, should be put in jail for life, right? But ideally should be executed. Because that's how pedophiles should be treated, by the way. They are not humans. They are rabid animals, right? And what rabid animals are treated, how rabid animals are treated, they are put in sleep. That's the only way, by the way, right? And as I said, society in US are very much not happy, by the way, very much not happy with their developments there. And let me show you video, by the way. Where is that video? Interesting. I know I had a video of okay, that's the video, by the way, that I'm gonna show you now. Do you see? He's good. He's being good at that. This is common when in regards to football. In the US, they call it football. And he was clearly booted, by the way, by people. Some might clap, but you can clearly see that the public was outraged. I mean, just they don't want to see this freaking animal, man, anywhere in public, right? That's how it is. That's how it is, man. Right? And I feel sorry for everybody among ordinary people that still have any belief in Trump. By the way, it's I can understand they've been mistaken. By the way, I mean mistakes happen, right? You cannot know everything, right? And sometimes we might be too naive, really. We all are just humans, isn't it? We all have our strengths and weaknesses, and we do make mistakes. At one point, you remember, it was like week or two that even I began, even though initially I was skeptical that there would be any progress in relationships between Russia and US or any de-escalation when Trump was inaugurated. I mean, I was skeptical from the very first day, right? But at some point, because there was this overwhelming optimism, right, on alternative media, in the public, that even influenced me. And for a week or two, by the way, I was also kind of, maybe we should give the chance. Maybe let's wait a week or two, and let's see, maybe something positive will happen, and we will see the escalation stuff. But then what happened? Trump went to insult Russian citizens, by the way, insult Russia, insult Russian president. And from that very day, I said, no, man, my initial instinct was correct. This garbage cannot be trusted, man. This criminal, it became clear, by the way, that Trump was playing all along, right? And I changed my attitude immediately, right? And I even apologized for community that for a week or two I was kind of misled, really, So I find myself in a position to, that I have to apologize, because I was thinking that maybe Trump is about de-escalation, really, right? So I acknowledge my mistake and I moved on, right? And unfortunately, many people still until now are looking other way and not acknowledging that they were wrong in regards to Trump, man. They were wrong. Trump and his freaking team, man, right? Anyways, by the way, more and more people gonna wake up, and as time goes by, more and more people gonna wake up. First of all, in US, right? And right now, I can see comment, by the way, on our on YouTube that Brian Burletic was on a pointer from the beginning, and that's correct. David King commented in the chat, and you are absolutely correct, David. Brian Burletic from New Atlas, we all know, of course, Brian Burletic and his great work. He was on point, by the way. He did not have that. He did not had that slide of a week or two that I had, and that's why I apologized, by the way. That for a week or two, I began believing that, well, maybe there is a chance, maybe there is a chance, but I was so wrong, man. But Burletic was on point all the time, by the way. All the time, right? He did not make such a mistake that I did, So nevertheless, let's continue, dear friends. Let's continue. More and more people gonna wake up, by the way. First of all, in US, right? And I think Trump is going down. J.D. Vance, by the way, should prepare for presidency, because Trump would not last more than a year or two, by the way, in office. He is just total devastation for US, right? Total disgrace for US, and there also devastation for US, Bob. Disaster. He's a total disaster for US, man. I can tell you that. Also, what other news I have prepared, dear friends? Few more news. RT is reporting that Russian and Chinese foreign ministers, top diplomats, hold talks in China on the sidelines of a Shanghai Cooperation Organization meeting. So Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov met with his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi in Beijing on a Sunday to discuss closer cooperation and global challenges, the Foreign Ministry in Moscow has announced in a statement. And on your screen, you can see, a picture of that meeting in some nice garden, by the way. I shared several pictures. all my Telegram and Twitter X pages in casual style, by the way. Two friends are meeting each other, discussing some very serious stuff. Good to see it. This and there is so much to talk about, isn't it? Between the two, by the way. After all, Trump and his administration are threatening not just Russia, by the way, but they are threatening China, they are threatening India, they are threatening literally everybody, by the way, whole world, right? And Russian leadership, Chinese leadership, Indian leadership, and leadership of other countries from BRICS, first of all, and also from other organizations, including Shanghai Cooperation Organization, have so much to talk about, isn't it? Because the world has to be united in response to this madness that is coming from the collective West nowadays, right? Nowadays, and basically since forever. But now, rest of the world is at least has a chance, right? At least has a good enough chance, by the way, to deal with collective West. While in past, collective West was dominating clearly, and rest of the world was not really in a position to put up a good fight. But now things are changing, right? And we are in a position to deal with the insane political class of the Western world, and we will, by the way, right? Also, interesting news that Indian foreign minister, by the way, legendary Indian foreign minister Jai Shankar had a meeting with Chinese vice president, it's not vice president, deputy prime minister, a VP, by the way, in Beijing, and Jai Shankar is also participating in this meeting. Maybe we will see today meeting between Jai Shankar and Lavrov. You know how much respect I have for Jai Shankar. I think he is, together with the Russian foreign minister, is definitely a heavyweight when it comes to diplomacy. I mean, heavyweight diplomats, by the way, top diplomats for sure, right? And Jai Shankar, if you have seen how sharp Jai Shankar is, by the way, in debates, in whenever there is some debates, you would be impressed, as I was. I mean, he is a very sharp man, very sharp, clearly heavyweight, right? So it is good that there is a high-level talks between China and India, because both countries, by the way, are tremendously important countries for this world, and hopefully New Delhi and Beijing will manage to find some common ground to de-escalate between each other and to reach point of at least good working, even maybe ideal, even friendly relationships, because we need that. World needs China and India to be on good terms with each other, right? And both countries are well capable of reaching the compromises whenever it's possible, and to for sake of humanity, by the way, for sake of humanity, both countries have to become friendly. At least they have to reach good working relationships, and they are close to it. They are close, by the way. There's higher level meetings between the leaders, which is definitely a good indicator. And I will end new segment, dear friends, with this report that Bitcoin reached yet another record, 120,000, by the way, which is quite crazy, isn't it? So price of Bitcoin has risen above 120,000 for the first time in history, according to trading data on their Binance cryptocurrency exchange. According to Binance market data, Bitcoin has broken through their 120,000 marker and is currently trading at $121,214, which is yet again huge, by the way. If you were clever enough, if you were on top of the game, by the way, and if you did buy bitcoins when price was I don't know, pennies, then well, congratulations. I mean, you made it. You clearly made it, by the way, right? I remember when I was thinking that, should I buy bitcoins and stuff. Unfortunately, I never had some free cash, free money to invest. Life is hard, isn't it? I was never in a position, I can say, that I could become an investor, but who had such options, and who invested in cryptos, leading cryptos, by the way, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and so on. They made it for sure. Congrats on that. And dear friends, this is it when it comes to a new segment. Hopefully, you did find it interesting and useful. Let's have a little chat. By the way, now I guess there was no. Anya is not at home. She and my younger daughter had to go somewhere, and therefore I'm alone right next to a comp notebook. But I'm checking right now Rumble. I see no super chat there. I guess there was no donations through PayPal either. Otherwise, I guess my wife would call me. And so, okay then. Okay, we can continue with the Q&A part. Let's take 15, 20 minutes, and I will end the live stream on that. And as I said, dear friends, once Trump's statements will become known, let's see what he has to say, and I might launch second news update, second live stream, and I will share not just statements on Trump, but I give you my commentary, and also maybe there will be some response from Russian side, and I will share that information too. Let's see how they goes. Well, I can see Nikos was asking Levan, what is your view of Brezhnev? He has managed to become the fifth most famous Russian Soviet leader. Do you agree, or do you believe in Gorbachev's view of the Brezhnev stagnation? Brezhnev stagnation. What I think about Brezhnev? I think Brezhnev was a scum of humanity, and I think Gorbachev was a scum of humanity. That's what I think. I think both were scum of humanity, by the way. That's my personal take, by the way, right? I'm scrolling now through chat, by the way. If I see capital Q before comment, I will respond to it. As always, I mean, capital Q or capital letters will make it easier to spot the question. Sorry if I miss your question while I'm scrolling in chat. I did not see a single question, by the way. But I see many members of our community are exchanging opinion in real time, so that makes me happy. Right? Oh, that's a quite interesting comment, by the way. You see capital letters, and I spotted. BRICS has a future, got to unite military. I mean, this is BRICS member states, by the way, cannot even finalize a process of creating alternative financial and the banking system, right? BRICS member states, unfortunately, cannot even find a common ground on topic of reserve currency, and discussions are continuous for how many years now, right? And I mean, therefore, when it comes to united military, it's not even possible on theoretical level at this point. I think so, and I don't think we need a united military. By the way, economical cooperation will create situation, and multipolar world, by the way, should create situation when stability will be in everybody's interests, right? And hopefully no one country will try to dominate over others. In any case, by the way, multipolar world is going to be better for humanity than unipolar world that was created after Soviet Union collapse, because we all have seen what kind of results humanity had in last, let's say, 3 decades, 3 to 4 decades, because last decade of Soviet Union, country was not really in a position to do anything on an international scale, right? So we all have seen results of total Western dominance in last couple of decades. How many countries they destroyed, by the way? How many millions of people they killed directly or as a result of their actions? How many people died? How many million people died? How many million people lost everything and were forced to move into other countries, become refugees, and so on? Collective West in last 3 to 4 decades destroyed lives, killed millions of people, and destroyed lives of tens of millions of people, by the way, at least, right? So in any case, multipolar world is going to be better, by the way, because you cannot be worse than what Western domination was for the humanity, right? But when it comes to BRICS military forces, I don't think this is even in a discussion or ever was in discussion among BRICS member states. I really don't think so. This BRICS is an economical union, right? Economical, political, okay, but military is a bit different. On a bilateral level, countries do have a strong partnership in military terms, right? Russia and India, Russia and China, we have great cooperation among militaries. Unfortunately, India and China don't, but maybe at some point in the future they will reach good level of working relationships, at least, let's say. But BRICS military, it's not happening, I think. Let them come up with their alternative financial and the banking system, by the way, and alternative reserve currency. That will make life much easier for everybody in this world. 212IT is commenting. Good to see you. Good to see you during the live stream. So did you hear something about the Su-35s from Iran? Not really. There was some reports that at least several Su-35s were delivered to Iran based on contracts. And before Su-35s, Yak 130s, training planes to prepare pilots, Iranian pilots, for Su-35. But neither during the 12-day war, neither after that, I have seen any reports about Su-35s in Iran. Maybe these reports were just mistakes, errors in medias about Russian Su-35s in Iran, and maybe none of these planes were delivered actually. Or maybe Iran did manage to keep these planes somewhere in secret and they were not destroyed as a result of Israeli strikes. But I did not hear even a single instance of air-to-air combat during this 12-day war. So Iranian Air Force was basically grounded. It seems like. So no, my answer is no. I did not hear nothing. And if Iran did not receive no Su-35s, then that will explain recent reports yet again in the media that, and we should take this information also with a pinch of salt, that Iran is in talks with China to buy J-10 planes, advanced variations of the J-10 planes, right? Maybe that is going to happen. Maybe Iran will buy J-10s now instead of Su-35s. I don't know. You know, there is a lack of information on the matter, by the way. Nidish Kumar is also asking, Levan, how much foreign direct investment is allowed in Russian stocks? Wow, that's quite specific question, Nidish. I just don't know. I don't know. If you are from friendly nation, I mean, if you are from India, then I guess there is no limits. It depends in what company you are investing, right? But from friendly countries, probably investments are not limited at all. When it comes to hostile countries, approach might be different, but I just simply don't know. I was never in a position to be an investor, so therefore I know very little about this. So sorry, English, my knowledge on this matter is not relevant. So I just don't know. Let's question above. Katie Max is commenting that question. I see a question. Yes, is Russia prepared to move big force to South Caucasus at any moment, or will they just watch, say, Armenia go west? Well, if in Armenia, by the way, there is already a Russian military base, right, in Gyumri, for example. And I think Russia should take this base out of Armenia. Armenian people made the decision, right? They supported the Pashinyan's regime, not just once, but at least twice or even more times, right? So you know what? If Armenian people want to destroy relationships with Russia and become a quasi-state or proxy of Washington or collective West, then this is their choice, by the way. I mean, if they want to do it, then okay. What can Russia do about it, right? And that's why I'm saying, by the way, that Armenia is already under Western control, right? So it will be better, in my personal opinion, to withdraw Russian base, withdraw all Russian military personnel from Armenia, by the way, because they are on hostile territory now. That's why I'm saying that Russian bases should be withdrawn from Syria too, because they are on hostile territory. And why should Russian militaries risk their lives, by the way? Why? But this is my personal opinion of one single citizen of Russian Federation, right? I don't know what majority of Russian public thinks about it, and I don't know what Kremlin thinks about it. All the statements we hear is extremely diplomatic and polite, right? In regards to Armenia, even in regards to Azerbaijan, although we all see how Azerbaijan leadership is acting against Russia. So, if it comes to necessity, then Russia is definitely in a position to deploy 100, 200, 300, 500,000 troops in any direction, by the way, at any given time, right? Right now, probably 500,000 to 700,000 people in military are in reserve. They are not even participating in any military operations, hostilities. Maybe they are participating in a rotation, maybe, right? But yes, any given time, Russian reserve, active reserve, by the way, is probably 500,000 to 700,000, or maybe even more, right? A real number probably most likely is classified for understandable reasons, but I think at least 500,000 to 700,000 troops are in reserve at any given time, and therefore they can be deployed in any direction, Southern Caucasus region or any other, right? Central Asia or, any direction. So, but when it comes to Armenia, by the way, and Armenia's drift towards the West, well, process is unstoppable at this point. Yes, Armenian people, seems like, at least lately, people there in Armenia are waking up and realizing that, well, they might make mistake while supporting this Soros bitch that Pashinyan is, right? Slut. Soros is slut, by the way. That's what Pashinyan is. And all his inner circle, by the way. They are all whores of collective West, right? How Armenian people supported these disgusting elements, I don't know. I mean, probably propaganda work did play some role there, and people were misled. Okay, things happened, but now it seems like at least some groups in society are waking up when they see that this Pashinyan's regime is attacking now Armenian church, by the way. Well, probably that was the last drop for many, right? And they did began realizing that, well, these psychos are definitely gonna harm Armenia big time, right? If they are even attacking church now. So maybe eventually people will wake up there and they will deal with this Western controlled regime of Pashinyan. But until then, Armenia's fate is sealed, by the way. As long as Pashinyan and other Western assets are in power, then this drift of Armenia towards suicide, which is drift towards the West, is not going to stop. So why should Russia intervene, by the way? So many countries, by the way, are so ungrateful whenever Russia helped them, supported them, right? And I know this firsthand, by the way. I do love history, and I do know how much sacrifice Russian people sacrificed to help many other peoples, by the way, that used to be part of Russian Empire, by the way, then Soviet Union. And even after Soviet Union collapsed, how much good Russia did, by the way, for others, right? And in many cases, Russia did not even receive their thank you for that. So therefore, I don't think Russia has any obligations towards anybody except its own citizens. So therefore, if Armenians want to go any other direction, flag им в руки, пожалуйста, удачи, good luck with that. It's not Russia's problem, by the way. We have our own problems quite a lot to deal with. So all the others can take care of themselves. If they want to be friendly to Russia, okay, great. But if they don't want to be friendly or allies, if they want to be proxies in hands of West against Russia, then we should take appropriate steps in that case. That's my comment. Sergio Leone is commenting, once this conflict will over, how longer will it take for the rest of the Europe to view Russia as a friend again on a political level? Will Nord Stream ever be rebuilt? Well, Sergio, I don't think Europe ever viewed Russia as a friend. I don't think Europe ever was friendly towards Russia or the Russian people, for that matter. So therefore, I don't even know how to answer to your question. When it comes to relationships, political relationships and economical relationships, my hope is that Moscow will not rebuild nothing. I don't think we should seek a restructuring of any relationships with European countries whatsoever, because how many times they're going to backstab us? Are we even capable of learning some lessons, at least on our own mistakes? Once this conflict will end, by the way, my hope is that Moscow will cut diplomatic ties with European countries with majority of European countries, let's say that way, towards the as maximum as possible. So just leave a couple of people in embassies, and that's it, right? We don't need no deep political relationships with the European countries. We just don't need them whatsoever, right? We don't need economical relationships with Europe. Social relationships, okay, that's a different story. Doors should be open always for Europeans, ordinary people, by the way, is ordinary people. Like we should not treat each other as enemies, right? Never. So therefore, doors should be open so that ordinary people from Europe, let's say, if they want to, they can travel to Russia, get to know Russia better, and so on, right? Make friends and but that's social interactions, right? That's a social sphere. But when it comes to political and economical cooperation, I really hope Moscow will stay away from Europe forever, literally forever, right? Just forget about existence of European countries, European economies. Just forget about it, right? Leave door open for social communication for ordinary people, and the rest just shut it down. So I don't want Nord Stream to be rebuilt. I don't want any other additional economical projects to be in a place between Russia and Europe. Why we need that? How many times Europe gonna attack us so that we will learn some lesson? So no political economical ties, or less political and economical ties, the better, right? This is my personal take, dear friends. I don't know what Moscow gonna do, obviously, but probably they will learn a lesson, right? Probably lesson will be learned, and Moscow will stay away from Europe after this conflict will end, right? We will just stay away, by the way, We'll say hello, bye, and that's about it, right? Just leave door open for social connection between the people, right? But on political and economical level, we don't really need any contacts with Europe, by the way. We don't need anything from Europe, right? Literally, we don't need anything from Europe. We can we can live perfectly fine without European, without economical cooperation with Europe. And on political level, how can you trust European politicians, man? Can you? You cannot. So therefore, why should we be engaged in this lying contest when Europeans are lying and our politicians are going to pretend that, we are so believe in you, right? Why this acting? Just cut the ties. That's it, man. And my hope is that's exactly what is going to happen. We don't need Europe. It's a misunderstanding on the West, right? That we are all dreaming about I don't know, either live in Europe or to become Europe. EU, let's say. Otherwise, Russia is a European country in many ways, right? But you know what I mean. That's a mistaken understanding in many people in the West, that they are kind of pinnacle of the human civilization, and everyone is moving towards them because they are kind of magnet. No, man, it's not like that. We just don't need no West whatsoever. Cut all the ties with the collective West, all of it, not just with Europe, but with US, with everybody from collective West, right? The rest of the world is much bigger, by the way, right? Much bigger. So let's cooperate with the rest of the world and forget about collective West. And after 20, 30, 40, 50 years, God knows when, but at some point, ordinary people in the West, ordinary societies will probably wake up. Probably they will reclaim countries, their own countries. Probably after that, they will build some new elites based on adequate people, normal people. And in that case, after, 30, 40, 50 years, if that will happen, right? Maybe we will see that collective West is being back into the rest of the world. But until then, it's not just Russia, but I think rest of the world has only one way to go forward, is to stay away from the collective West and isolate even collective West as much as possible. And that's the direction actually that we are heading. That's the direction that we are heading, by the way, like it or not, but this is happening as we speak. And collective West is getting more and more isolated from the rest of the world. And that's why Western elites are going this crazy, by the way, right? They are not just losing control, but they are losing relevance. And less and less people actually care about them, right? And what they have to say, or that makes them crazy, And dear friends, Nidish Kumar is commenting, Levan, is there chances countries boycotting LA Olympics? Maybe, if you take in account how US administration is acting, then maybe LA Olympics would not even take place or something, right? I don't pay no attention to LA. I don't even know when Olympics is going to be in LA. This summer or next summer, I don't even know. Once the International Olympic Committee become extremely politicized and ideologized, I literally stopped paying any attention to Olympic movements whatsoever. And even last Olympics, by the way, in France, I was just I was just seeing some fragments on internet. I did not watch opening ceremony, closing ceremony. I did not care whatsoever. And I guess many people are on the same page, right? This movement is extremely politicized. The countries Russia is blocked, by the way, and Israel is not. Israel is intentionally killing hundreds of thousands of civilians, right? Children, women, elderly, intentionally. And the Israeli militaries are acknowledging this openly, by the way. They're talking to media, right? And saying that they've been ordered to kill civilians, right? So that's the Israeli state policy, to kill civilians. And while this is happening, Israel is doing just fine, isn't it? In all these so-called international sporting organizations that banned Russia and Belarus even, by the way. Why they banned Belarus? But anyways, man, I don't know. Idea that some sporting events to be boycotted, I don't really like it. I think sports should be outside of the politics, right? So therefore, I'm not calling Israel to be banned, by the way, right? I'm just mentioning Israel. I'm just showcasing these double standards that are used, right, by international sporting organizations that are controlled by the West, right? Western secret services, Western elites, including International Olympic Committee. But I definitely don't call to any country being banned or blocked, right? Sport should be outside of politics. That's the way to go forward. But yet again, when it comes to LA, I don't even know, is in LA Summer Olympics or Winter Olympics? In LA California is quite a mountain state, isn't it? And is there certain areas in the mountains that sometimes snows? I don't know. I don't even know. There is a massive parks, isn't it, in LA? Used to be, at least. But probably because it's California is a hot state, probably it's Summer Olympics. I'm telling you, Nidish, I don't pay no attention to these so-called Olympics whatsoever. So I don't even know, is it Summer Olympics or Winter Olympics? But based on actions of U.S. administration, many countries might say, you know what, we're going to stay away from U.S., man. So therefore, yes, maybe Olympics would not even take place. It's a possibility. Although, yet again, I don't support no boycotts, no blocks of sporting events, by the way. Sport should be outside of politics, man. But that's ideally. In reality, it's not working like that, isn't it? Definitely not now. Nidish is also commenting that Soros and the Muslim Brotherhoods are allies. Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what kind of ties they have, but Soros is an evil force. Soros and Soros organization is an evil force, that's for sure. And all the terrorist organizations, including Muslim Brotherhood, is evil also. They are no good terrorist organizations, right? And I will designate Soros as open society organization also as a terrorist organization, as it should be, by the way. And thanks God, Soros's organizations are banned in Russia. Dear friends, it's 1 hour and almost 40 minutes. So I will scroll now fast. And yes, I mean, most likely I did miss some questions, dear friends. My apologies for that. But it is time to. I just checked, by the way, on Rumble in case there was any super chat. There is nothing there. So, okay, dear friends, this is it. This is it for today's first live stream. Later on, maybe I will make second live stream. Depends on what kind of statements Trump will make and what kind of reaction Moscow will have. So, okay, dear friends, thank you very much for your time, for your attention, for your support. Have a wonderful day and take care. Bye for now.